Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Power Forward podcast. I'm your host, Jackie Rainica, a mindset coach and former Ivy League athlete, here to help student athletes, parents, and coaches focus on progress, not perfection. Every other week, we'll welcome a new guest with relevant experience to share their perspectives and tools to support growth on and off the field. We have an Ivy League legend in your ears and on your screen today. You may know Bella Alarie as the Ivy League Rookie of the Year, a 3-time Player of the Year, an All-American, or the 5th overall pick in the 2020 WNBA draft. But I am lucky to know her as a teammate and friend. Bella competed at the highest levels of the game, at Princeton, with the Dallas Wings in the WNBA, in the EuroLeague, and for Team USA. After her playing career, she coached at Georgetown while earning a master's degree in sports industry management. Now she's using her experience to help build the 9 Sports, a women's sports media platform. Welcome, Bella.
Thanks, Jackie. I'm so excited for today. This is
Thank you for being here. I
Thank
know you're
you.
very busy and you just officially launched, so a
Yeah,
lot on your plate, but I know you have a ton of experience and wisdom to share with us, so we are grateful to have you.
grateful to be here. I've listened to other episodes, and honestly, if I had a podcast like this to listen to when I was in high school or college, it would have been a game changer. So I'm so glad that it's you who's created this, and we get to talk and share this with athletes who need to hear it. So I'm very
Thank
excited.
you. Okay, so we're going to dive right in and talk about your family and growing up. Your grandpa graduated magna cum laude from Princeton. Your dad was a Duke basketball legend and first-round NBA draft pick. And your mom is an accomplished lawyer. You must have felt just a little bit of pressure growing up. How did you manage all of that?
It's really funny because I look back at my childhood and all the accomplishments of my parents, my grandparents. They could have bragged so much more about what they did, but they never bragged, and they just kind of showed me their success and their happiness and never put that pressure on me. I was not magna cum laude at Princeton, but I got to really create my own path there. And my family just was always really supportive, but pushed me in what I wanted to accomplish and what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. They were more than supportive. And so I never felt like I had to follow the same path as my dad. I was never recruited to Duke, so I didn't really have the option. But I do think being on the same campus and having that same, feeling like I had to replicate his basketball journey would have been a ton of pressure, but they never asked me to do that. They just wanted me to be Bella. And I thought that was really special and really important for me as someone who is an extreme perfectionist and is really hard on myself. Having a really supportive family that understood that I was going to be my toughest critic and set high goals and standards for myself, they knew what to do. So I was really fortunate in that way.
It sounds like you had a special childhood because your parents understood that maybe there was going to be some pressure that you probably would put on yourself. But looking back on your childhood or early basketball days, what are some of the memories that shaped who you are today?
Well, there's a ton. I remember honestly, the first time playing basketball with my dad, the first thing he wanted to teach me was beef, which was balance, eyes, elbows, follow through. It was his little acronym that even my friends now that he coached, we still joke about beef all the time. At the middle school I went to, there was an auction, and every year my dad would put a package together where he would do a practice with a group of kids whose ever parents bid the highest. And so he would always invite me to join along. And I remember being a little kindergartner, just sprinting around with fourth graders and thinking I was just the coolest. I was having the best time. But honestly, every memory of when I was really young of being out on the court was really fun. And I know that shifted a little bit when I started to go through puberty and middle school and all the awkwardness of life, and also start to kind of grapple with the relationship my dad and I had between coach and
Yeah.
player and parent and daughter. And I think that's when like my ideas of basketball kind of shifted a little bit and we had to like work through that together. But honestly, like all my early memories of playing was just filled with so much joy. Like that just happiness of being on the court, I felt really early on.
Talk to us more about this relationship you had with your dad and how you had to navigate the dad daughter versus coach player.
Yeah, it's something my dad and I have talked about a lot, and we've when I was really young, like I said, it was, what you're doing in practice is like fun little drills and like learning how to dribble a basketball. But once it became more serious for me, and I think when my dad realized the potential I had, there was like a switch that flipped where he's like, I really need to push Bella because she's not living up to her potential in his eyes. He was my coach. He was the head coach on every team I played on up to 6th grade. And we kind of like hit this wall where I kind of couldn't be coached by him anymore because I took things so personally.
Mm.
And he was just coaching me, like, run harder, like, stop whining. And I'm like, ugh, like, dad, or like, whatever. It was so, like, it became so complicated. And once I got to, I think it was like 6th or 7th grade, my dad was like, okay, we need to find you a new coach and I can still be like supportive on your basketball journey and be an assistant or whatever. But we need to kind of like flip the script and you need to find new ways to be motivated and coach that don't necessarily like blur those lines between father and daughter, because I
Mm.
have like my dad is amazing. He's like the best dad and we have such a great relationship. You don't want that to be ruined by him like pushing me so hard or kind of like hurting that personal
Mm.
relationship that we had. And so it took a lot of push and pull and like those awkward car rides after games, like we all remember sitting in the back seat and your dad is like, what was that, like, oh my gosh, and you're like, I'm in 4th grade, I don't understand what's going on. But I think once we were able to be really honest with each other, especially about what I needed as an athlete and as a daughter and what he wanted from me as a coach and as a dad with high expectations for me because he saw my potential and wanted me to be successful. I think when we were able to be honest about that, things were great.
Mm. I mean, at 6th or 7th grade, and even for your dad, for both of you to come to that decision probably was not easy and took a lot of courage and honesty.
Mhm.
I'm sure it helped for him to take a step back, but there were some expectations. Did you still feel pressure from him or did you put it on yourself? What did that look like moving into high school?
I think both. I was and am like always my toughest critic, and I always know my mistakes before my coach or my parent or whoever tells me I made that mistake. I'm so hyper aware of it. When I got to high school, it gets a little more intense because you also want to get recruited for college and you want to perform at your highest level every time you're out on the court because people are watching and judging you and making decisions about if they're going to offer you a spot on their team. And there were so many like other outside pressures that I was thinking about. But in high school, I would say my biggest issue was when I would make a mistake, I would find my dad in the crowd and check his
Mm.
reaction first. And I don't think he realized that because he had some very animated reactions to my mistakes. And it would only fuel my stress on the court. That was something as I got to high school and he was in the crowd more and not on the bench, that we kind of had to talk about, like, hey, you can't look embarrassed when I make a mistake because I'm already embarrassed and I can't like look at you and also feel that extra pressure. I think he just so wants the best for me in all
Mm.
things, and it also took my maturity to recognize that, like, that was how he was coached growing up. He was coached by Coach K, like in his early days. Like that is a different style of coaching that doesn't necessarily translate to a high school girl. That was something like he also figured out and picked up on, and like we finally got in our rhythm, but it does take some trial and error for sure.
Yeah, and he was doing that for the first time,
Yeah.
and like you said, he wanted the best for you. And he does have a ton of experience and probably knows what's best, but needed to, take a step back and let you figure that out on your own.
Totally.
That must have been tough.
It was tough, but it is funny. Like I I in middle school and high school, I cried all the time. I wasn't always like the toughest mentally, especially when I was younger. Even my freshman year of college, I really had, you might remember, I had to work on my toughness a lot and like pushing through like hard things and pushing through failure. I look back and it's like it was just like the phase, it was the time. Like it just sometimes it takes maturity and reflection and things like that to recognize like we were all figuring this out together. I'm the oldest, like I'm the only daughter, two younger brothers. Like my dad was trying to figure it all out too. And so was my mom. She was like the best mediator ever. She was like the best cheerleader. She and my dad were such a good like yin and yang
Yeah.
for what I needed. Yeah, I mean, I look back, like I'm so grateful for all of it because I think it's shaped who I am as a player and helped me recognize what kind of coaches I needed, what kind of person I needed to be successful on the court and off the court. And I take all those lessons with me. So I have no regrets at all. And all those moments and arguments and things are only made our relationship stronger. Sometimes it takes a couple years to be able to look back and say, okay, like, thank you for pushing me. Like, thanks for just helping make me better.
Mm. It's hard. It's a hard dynamic that
It
I
is.
see often. And sometimes it just takes, taking a step back and reflecting on what's our goal here. And your goal was to go play in college.
Yes.
You were highly recruited. What led you to Princeton?
Well, it's funny, like, I guess I was kind of highly recruited, but definitely at the mid-major level, and my confidence as a player did not really come until I had committed to Princeton my junior year. My recruiting process was kind of crazy from the beginning. I remember going to tournaments. I guess we would start AAU tournaments the summer after our freshman year, and that's when like recruiting got more serious because they could send you letters, I think.
Yep. Right.
And I remember getting, like after my first tournament, getting letters from Princeton and Penn and Harvard and other mid majors and Ivy schools. And I was like, oh my gosh, wait, like this is really cool. And that was like very motivating to me. And I think it's changed now for a lot of high school athletes because thank goodness, like women's sports are more visible and we can watch them on TV and we can follow college athletes and really see their journeys. But back when I was in high school, which wasn't that long ago, I mean, I feel old, but it really wasn't. There was like UConn and like a couple teams you could watch on TV, but I didn't really even understand how like the NCAA tournament worked. Like I was just like Princeton goes there a lot. That looks cool. Like, and my idea of college wasn't necessarily what was true about college, but my recruiting process was really fun. I spent a lot of time talking to coaches and the recruiting coordinator and trying to learn about not only what school would be the best fit, but what coach would be the best fit for me. I'm a firm believer that your coach can like really shape your experience. It's really hard to separate your coach from your experience on the court. So that was really important to me. And then visiting campuses and like actually feeling the vibes. I remember coming to Princeton and it was like an immediate like gut feeling like, oh, like, okay, everyone's really nice here and actually genuinely likes each other. It's just like, it was a great place. Like I absolutely fell in love with it. And so I think it was a mix of spending a lot of time talking to coaches, taking the time to go visit campuses and meet the players and physically be there. And we didn't have like the photo shoots and like all the crazy stuff back then. So like I know it's like got to be so much harder. And that's what I saw as a coach. It was like such a
Yeah.
different experience for recruiting, but you couldn't really be like jaded by a lot of the bells and whistles. It was like, this is what it is. Do you like it or do you not? And I thought that was
Interesting.
actually really valuable for me.
Huh. That's interesting how things have changed.
Yeah, it's crazy now. I mean, it's a lot of the like recruiting is competitive, and now there's money to offer athletes, and there's cool gear, and there's great facilities, and there's so many things that schools want to show off, and they absolutely should. But at the end of the day, you're spending time with people 24/7. Do you like those people? Are you going to succeed around them? Are you going to be happy? Are you going to want to come back and visit the school? Like, there's so many things that I considered. I didn't really care what our uniforms looked like or what Nike package we got, because it didn't matter back then. But I'm so grateful that like I went to a school that like I genuinely want to go back and visit all the time and like love so much.
I'm going to brag a little bit about Bella. She was Princeton women's basketball, or is Princeton women's basketball's all-time leader in Ivy Player of the Week awards 20 times. That's crazy. Blocks, 249, double doubles at 40, and total points, 1,703. That's wild. How do you feel when I mention these accomplishments?
I mean, I'm really proud of them. Like, I worked really hard for all those things, and it really is a testament to not only like my coaches and my teammates and being on a team where I like genuinely thrived. And that was really important. Like, I felt so much joy on the court, and I think that translated to those results. But like, I spent so much time practicing, and that allowed me to like so many reps and so much practice and so much time with my trainer in the summer. That allowed me to just like be free on the court. And I would be lying if I said I didn't think about like how many points I was scoring in a game or like how many rebounds I had. Like, I always kind of had that in the back of my mind, but it just felt very natural to me as a player for those things to come to me, because I knew I'd like put the time in to get to that point. I am so grateful. Like, I had the best teammates. It was just great. Like, we loved playing together, and my role was to score. Like, that's what I was told before the start of every season. And I took that very seriously. If my role was to do something else, I would have done that to the best of my ability. But that also is something I'm grateful for. Like, I had a coach who was like, no, like, I actually need you to score and like shoot the ball a lot. And I was like, okay, like that sounds really fun. I'll do that. But no, I'm like very proud looking back, and it all kind of like came together to allow me to do that.
You mentioned freshman year was tough.
Yeah.
We did not win the Ivy League after, years of doing that. And you come in and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe it wasn't what you expected. How did you handle that year, and how did you turn it around to make it a more positive experience?
Yeah, I think it's a universal experience for people to show up freshman year and be completely overwhelmed and like have so much to soak in and learn before you can like function like like a normal human. Really, really struggled with imposter syndrome my freshman year. And you might have a better definition than me, but it's this feeling of like entering a space and feeling like you don't deserve it or you don't belong there. And I really felt that at Princeton, especially in the classroom. Like, that kicked my butt like immediately freshman year. And I went to a really good like academic, like high pressure academic high school. And I was still like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing here? This is a fluke. I shouldn't be here. I had a mix of good and bad practices. Like, the pace really picks up when you get to college. It's immediately a faster game. It's immediately more physical. You have so many more plays to learn. And I was able to kind of like get through practice, but a lot of times I would be so overwhelmed and disappointed in myself leaving the gym that what used to be kind of like my safe space, the basketball court, and like where I would be like so dominant in high school, I was like, wait, like, does this not exist for me anymore? That was really hard. I remember my mom visiting for Parents Weekend, and we had this really nice weekend, and we went to lunch and we went shopping around Princeton, and she was like dropping me off at the gym, and she was gonna drive home, and I completely broke down. I was bawling. I was like, get me out of here. I don't belong here. I think this is a mistake. And she was like, breathe. Like, it's October. You've been here for 1 month. Like, of course you're overwhelmed. Of course you're at the best school in the country. You're going to be fine. And I remember being kind of embarrassed for feeling that way, but crazy enough, I talked to alums and players on the team who were like, oh, I did the same thing freshman year. Like, I went through the exact same experience, and being able to lean on others to know it wasn't just me who was feeling this way, and just give myself time to like find my stride and start seeing success on the court and start understanding what my professors were looking for and how to manage my time. Sometimes it takes those breakdowns or failures or moments to kind of be able to like flip that switch and figure out who you can lean on and where you can find that joy and feel like you belong. And I really started to feel that kind of during the season when we started spending endless hours together as a team and seeing some results on the court too.
Hmm. And then you had to manage going through COVID.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Blocked that one out.
So then, okay, things are going a little bit better.
Mhm.
You were leaning on your teammates. You were developing tools to get through tough times. And then this unexpected global pandemic hits your senior year. And
Mhm.
Princeton was arguably having, I mean, were you guys undefeated too?
We had lost one game in overtime to Iowa, but we were 26-1,
Yeah.
and we were the best defensive team in the country. And we we had the same record as number one ranked South Carolina. So we argue we were national champions that year. But I think, yeah, I mean, we were having an absolutely historic season. We had a new coach, Carla Bruby, who would come in, and you never know with a new coach what's going to happen, but it was just magic was happening all around. Everything was clicking for our team, and COVID hit and they canceled the Ivy League tournament, and we were going to have like the auto bid to the NCAA tournament. We thought maybe they'd do it. And then I remember they canceled the NBA and we're like, oh yeah, like we're all going home. And that was really hard because we'd just been having the best season and the best time, and all just like it just ended so quickly.
Mm. And then you are now gearing up for the WNBA, and the draft probably wasn't what you were expecting either.
No, it was in my basement. Yeah, it was pretty wild. I moved back obviously to my parents' house, moved all my stuff out of my dorm. That senior spring is supposed to be really fun and just you're not really thinking about school or anything. I knew I would be gearing up for the WNBA. I had hopes that I would be drafted and get to play. I finished my senior thesis 3 days after I was drafted to the WNBA. I was drafted. We set up a little studio in my dad's office in the basement. ESPN sent us these little like kits with lights and like a streaming device and all this crazy stuff. And I think we were kind of like testing it out for the NFL draft because it wasn't perfect by any means, but it actually was really special to just have my family with me because they're the ones who like got me there. It wasn't super glamorous. I wore like jeans and like a blazer or something. Like it was so different than what I had seen and what we've seen in the last few years with WNBA drafts. Oh my gosh, I was like so stressed out that day. I was so glad like it was over and I like knew where I was going and I didn't have to worry about like being on live TV, but it was a very unique experience to put it nicely.
Yeah, and to, end your incredible college career that way, then start this new journey on a weird note.
Mhm.
Then going to Dallas, like talk us through that and the emotions that came with that.
Yeah. So I was drafted to the Dallas Wings. I had a pretty good idea I was getting drafted there based on like the GM called me that day and told me when they would take me, and another team called me and told me when they would take me. And I was like, okay, sounds like I'm going to Dallas. I'll kind of prepare for that. Yeah. Once I was drafted, like the next few days were kind of a whirlwind because there was a lot of like media and like random things to do. And then I remember I finished my senior thesis. I was still in school, like trying to graduate from Princeton. And then I started to get word that like maybe we weren't going to have a season in the WNBA. They were exploring like a bubble, which I was like, what is a bubble? Like, what are we talking about? We would get on these player calls, like all hands, like we'd all be on these Zooms, and I'd be hearing like Sue Bird and Elena Deladon talking about like if we were going to have a season. And I was like, what is this? Like, what is going on? And so it was very, especially weird because I didn't exactly know what I was preparing for. If I was preparing for something, I did all my training in my backyard. My parents have a little like concrete quarter court. So I was out there every day, like working out, trying to stay ready to play in the league. But basically, we found out we'd be in a bubble, which meant I would fly to Dallas. I'd spend 2 weeks there training and getting COVID tested every day. And then we'd fly commercial with other people on the plane as a team from Dallas to Florida, where we were at IMG Academy. And I think we were there for like 3.5 months. I mean, no one in, no one out. I didn't see anyone I knew except my teammates, obviously, but we were like in this bubble, and that was my first professional basketball experience. It was very, very challenging for sure.
Mm. Do you think any of the skills or tools you gained while you're going through hard times at Princeton translated to that time?
Yeah, I think so. One of the best tools for me that I still carry with me to this day is positive visualization. My mom taught me about positive visualization, I think when I was in like 6th grade. Like,
Oh,
bless her, she knew like all the tools to whip out. But I remember feeling really like stressed before a game, and she was like, close your eyes and I'm gonna walk you through a great basketball game that you play. And I remember closing my eyes, and she was like, okay, like you win the tip off and then you go run down the court and you make a layup and you're so strong. And like she like told this story that was like, I was like, wait, this is like the best game ever. And I started to do that. Like I did that in my head before most games I played in high school and college. And I especially needed that when I was in the WNBA because the level of play was so high. I also turned positive visualization into watching positive film of myself. A lot of coaches and people watch the bad stuff that you do and point out your mistakes. I already knew all my mistakes. Like I said before, I was so hyper aware of those. I always took the time to watch good film of myself, like film from college. Film, like I watched the video of me getting drafted because it was like such an emotional moment. I'd sometimes watch that to remember like the joy I felt when when I'd accomplished that. I think seeing is believing in a lot of ways. And that was something I took really seriously that first year because I didn't have a ton of highlights. I didn't play that much. I needed to remind myself when I got out there that I deserved to be out there and I could do it. And that was something I did a lot, especially my first year in the WNBA.
Hmm. So you also played overseas and then decided to maybe transition into coaching and earning your master's. Talk to me about that time and the decisions that were made.
It was a really hard decision to like retire from playing basketball because I felt like so much of my identity was wrapped up in being an athlete and being a basketball player. I felt somewhere deep down like it was time for me to move on because I didn't feel the same joy I did on court, especially when I was overseas. Yeah, it was like a really tough decision. I spent a lot of time talking with my mom, talking with my boyfriend at the time, still my fiance, which is very nice. Shout out Will. Yeah, I spent a lot of time talking to my dad too about the decision to step away from playing. And at the time, I was like, maybe it doesn't have to be permanent. Like I can step away for a season and then I can come back. Like that's always an option. And I think I just needed someone to tell me that it was, that I truly trusted. And my parents were the people that were like, it's okay. You can step away. You can always come back. You also went to college without like I had no expectation of playing professional basketball. I went to Princeton because I maybe thought I would work in finance or something, who knows? But I went there because I wanted to have a great degree and like have a successful career afterwards. It was a really tough decision because I felt like my identity was so wrapped up in being a basketball player. But once I did and like took the time to step back, I realized my joy for the game and my appreciation for it started to like come back more. Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it was easy, but once I stepped away, I realized it was the right decision. And, now I'm very happy I did. I still get to be so close to sports. I always knew I wanted to work in sports and was able to, like you said in my intro, get my master's in sports management and try coaching and see how I liked that. And now I get to work with really cool people in sports every day and help build something that I think is really important in the women's sports ecosystem. But it was a really weird time to make that decision because I'd only played 2 years of professional basketball. But I think it was a mix of COVID. I think professional basketball is a different beast. College is there's like an imminence to it. I think that's the right word here. Like it's like you only have so many games to play with your team and so many opportunities, and that it's fleeting every moment and it feels so much more important. And it's so much more like team basketball. You get to the pros and there's so many other things at play. Like this is people's livelihoods. It's their careers they've chosen. They're doing it to provide for their family. They are fighting for roster spots because there's not a lot of roster spots in the WNBA. Like there's so many other things that make it different from college basketball. And I realized I really thrived in the college basketball environment, but not necessarily in the professional basketball environment. That was also a big part of my decision too.
What was your biggest realization when you transitioned from a player to a coach?
My first big realization was I gained a new appreciation for all my coaches that had coached me before, because coaches have a lot they're thinking about. They're not only trying to, like, at least for me as a coach, I was really big on making sure that the players I coached felt confident because that was so important to me as a player. And everyone I worked with, my goal was to instill confidence in them, was to make sure that they knew what was going on the court, that if I needed to help translate something into like player terminology, I could offer that to them, because sometimes, especially when you're young or a freshman or you're at a new program, you're overwhelmed with the amount of things you need to learn. But just the time that coaches spend outside of work hours thinking about the team, thinking about plays, thinking about how people are doing. Is everyone okay? Like, is everyone's personal lives okay? Because that's also a big part of their college experience and it's their happiness. Like, you think about that. It's a lot of those like unseen hours that I didn't even think about my coaches doing. Like, I would show up to practice and I would leave and they were probably there watching film for hours, like trying to figure out like how we were going to get a stop, or I don't know. The biggest thing was, I think every coach is going to bring something unique to a team, and they usually bring something that matters to them or something that was impactful to them if they were a player. And mine was big time was confidence and just making sure that I spent enough time with the players that they could trust me to talk to me about things they were struggling with, and that I could be their biggest hype man when I could, and also rep things out with them so that when they stepped on the court in a game, like, they felt really confident too.
What did you find kind of across the board helped them most with confidence?
I would say film is a big one. Reps, like, really, sometimes to a fault, like, just the repetition over and over and over again, and, like, feeling yourself be super strong and athletic and, like, seeing the ball go in the basket, like, and then kind of building off of those reps. I never started with something complicated with anyone. This is something I learned from my trainer. Like, you start with the most simple thing, like form shooting, the easiest thing that you can do, and then you build from there, and then you add counters and you add other things. But if you can feel incredibly confident in the basics, most of the best basketball players aren't doing like the crazy, like, I don't even know, like all the moves and stuff. Like, the best players have the fundamentals down. And sometimes if you feel yourself like losing that confidence, go back to the fundamentals, rep those as much as you can, because those always translate, and it always kind of like helps you like mentally and physically reset when you might feel out of
Yeah.
whack or not yourself.
I love that advice. That's awesome. To wrap us up, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would tell my younger self to never hunch over and to stand tall, because Jackie and I are tall girls. We're both like Jackie, well, you're 6'4", I'm
That's
6'5". Like, I think confidence is everything. I've said that a lot on this episode, but I was growing really fast and what felt very awkwardly. And sometimes like I wanted to like be small and hunch over. I think this translates to so many other insecurities for people, but if you can embrace those like bring you the biggest blessings, honestly. Like being tall allowed me to be a great basketball player. It allows me to like walk confidently. Like people stare at me and ask me how tall I am every day, but I kind of love it. I think I can also hopefully inspire like other young girls who are tall and awkward who will be hopefully 6'5" one day. But I think like standing tall and like leaning into that is the most important thing I could tell my younger self.
Oh, you can make me cry.
But no,
I
seriously, it's like it can be really hard when you're in middle school and high school, even college. Sometimes I was like, am I taller than everyone at Princeton? Like, my goodness. But it all works out. Like, it's what makes you different is also what makes you special and allows you to succeed. And so I'm really grateful that I, got over that insecurity, and it brought me so many great blessings in my life.
Mm. Where can listeners find you?
Can find me on Instagram, Bella_Alarie. I'm also on TikTok. Sometimes I make videos about the company I work for, the Nine Sports. You guys should also follow the Nine Sports. We're a women's sports media platform. We're really focused on like the storytelling and journalism around women's sports. And it's really hard to come across that in legacy media. And it's something I'm really excited about. We're focused on closing the coverage gap. And to anyone listening, there's probably a story that we've written that might resonate with you. It's really cool and it's really fun. So follow that too. The IX Sports is our handle.
Well, thank you, Bella, so much for being vulnerable and sharing your journey. I know it's been filled with a ton of accomplishments, but a lot of other hardships that have built you and made you the strong, tall, proud woman that you are. And I'm very proud to be your friend and share that with everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you, Jackie. Seriously. And you were the best teammate, leader, and now friend, but this platform is so important. And so I'm excited for this to continue to grow. And to all the listeners, like I hope you took something great away from this. So
I
thanks
think so.
again.
Yay. Thank you.